All right, the midnight tape for this Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026, has just delivered a set of numbers that confirms the G7 exit doors are no longer just closing. They have been officially locked from the outside. John AG has been tracking the internal plumbing of the precious metals markets for years. But the data hitting the terminal in the last hour suggests that we have moved past the point of a market correction and into a state of total systemic seizure. While the world sleeps, the global physical silver market is undergoing a manual reset that is bypassing every digital clearinghouse in the West. We are looking at a world where the spot price has become a total ghost, a digital hallucination that no longer commands the movement of even a single gram of refined metal. The registered inventory at the COMEX has functionally vanished into a black hole of sovereign delivery requests, and the realization of a terminal default is currently paralyzing the boardrooms of the bullion banks. The data hitting the private terminals regarding the current inventory levels is the most catastrophic evidence of a structural breakdown I have ever analyzed. We have officially reached a zero-bound liquidity state in the deliverable silver category. To put the gravity of this into perspective, the open interest for the March delivery cycle is now 3 times larger than the total amount of silver currently sitting in the Western vaulting system. This is a mathematical impossibility that leads to only one conclusion: systemic force majeure. John AG is looking at the internal settlement logs, and the bullion banks are no longer even attempting to source metal at the paper price. They are offering cash settle only to institutional clients, and the clients are refusing. They don't want the depreciating currency. They want the physical atoms, and those atoms are currently being locked down under national security protocols. Look at the divergence in global sentiment as the Eastern markets prepare for the full morning session. The Shanghai Gold Exchange premium over the London spot has just gapped to an unprecedented $40 per ounce. This is no longer arbitrage. This is a global evacuation of physical value from the West to the East. John AG has warned you that the vacuum effect would eventually leave New York in the dust. And tonight, that vacuum has turned into a total atmospheric collapse for the G7 financial corridors. Every primary refinery in the world is now shipping directly to Asian ports because the Western price is a lie, a controlled narrative designed to protect institutions that are functionally bankrupt. The East has seized control of price discovery, and the G7 exit doors have been locked to prevent the remaining metal from leaving the system. The systemic lockdown we are discussing has now moved into the digital clearing corridors, where the settlement systems are struggling to reconcile the massive surge in delivery failures. We have confirmed reports tonight that multiple Tier 1 clearinghouses have manualized their precious metals dashboards due to collateral instability. John AG knows what this means. It means the digital ledgers can no longer hide the fact that the physical metal isn't there. This is the bail-in maneuver in its most aggressive form. They are locking the doors to the burning building while the big institutional players scramble to save their own balance sheets. If your wealth is stored in a digital database tonight, you are an unsecured creditor in a system that is currently filing for mathematical bankruptcy. The only ticket out of this digital cage is the physical metal in your own hand. The industrial panic has reached a state of absolute hunger for the global tech sector as the realization of a permanent silver deficit hits the supply chain managers. John AG has primary sources inside the procurement department of a major semiconductor manufacturer who says they have been told zero allocation for silver grain for the next 180 days. They are now in a direct bidding war with the military-industrial complex and central banks for every available ounce of refined metal. Tesla, Apple, and Raytheon are no longer looking at the COMEX ticker. They are sending private teams to secondary markets and offering $300 an ounce just to keep their production lines from hitting a terminal stop. The green energy revolution and the high-tech defense shield are both stalling because the miracle metal of the 21st century is no longer available at any price on the Western market. The news from the Mexican mining jurisdictions remains the alpha trigger for the current market explosion tonight. The deployment of military security at the mine gates has now evolved into a national security seizure of all refined silver inventory to protect the domestic manufacturing of high-tech components. Mexico, the world's leading producer, has realized that their silver is a more stable reserve than the currency they are being paid for it. John AG is tracking the shipping manifests, and we are seeing a total halt of concentrate shipments toward the London-New York corridor. This means the Western registered vault is functionally empty, while the rest of the world is starving for 1 billion ounces a year. This is the resource war, moving into its final terminal phase. If you have the metal, you have a future. If you only have paper, you are part of the ship that is currently sinking. The $35 trillion debt wall is the mountain that is currently falling onto the foundation of the global banking system. The interest payments on the U.S. national debt have just hit a trajectory that is mathematically impossible to fund through tax revenue alone. This is the definition of systemic insolvency. The Federal Reserve is trapped in a black hole. If they print money to bail out the bullion banks, the dollar enters a hyperinflationary death spiral. If they don't print, the banking system collapses under the weight of naked short obligations that can no longer be hidden with paper contracts. John AG sees the choice they've made. They will protect the institution by seizing the collateral of the middle class. The bail-in framework is live. If your wealth is digital, it is a liability. If your wealth is physical silver, you are the only one who is truly banked. Look at the gold to silver ratio as it compresses toward the 20-to-1 mark in the shadow markets tonight. This is a historical revaluation that has been suppressed for 50 years by bank manipulation and algorithmic short selling. John AG has shown you the data where silver acts as the rocket fuel during a currency reset. While gold is the premier monetary anchor, silver is the variable that captures the industrial panic and the monetary flight simultaneously. When the ratio reverts to its natural bimetallic mean of 15-to-1, which is now an inevitability given the physical shortage, the price of silver will enter a territory that the mainstream experts called impossible. Now, the rubber band has snapped, and it is destroying every naked short position in the world tonight. The reality is that silver is the most undervalued strategic asset on the planet, and the value gap is closing in front of your eyes. Every emergency update I provide is rooted in the primary source data of the vaults and the delivery notices. The tape tonight is telling us that the plumbing of the global financial system is officially broken. We are seeing record high fails to deliver, FTDs, being reported in the silver-backed equities and ETFs as the day opens. This means that even the people who thought they were safe in a brokerage account are finding out they own nothing but a digital claim on an empty vault. John AG is telling you that the G7 exit lock is a stress test for the total cyber polygon reset. In a world of digital illusions and system offline messages, the physical bar in your hand is the only financial record that is truly sovereign. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. You are merely an unsecured creditor in a system that has declared mathematical bankruptcy. The face of shock you see in the thumbnails is the face of the institutional banker who realizes that the March delivery madness was not a technical glitch, but the start of the final run on the bank. John AG sees this panic in the volume profile of the midday trades. There is a massive ask vacuum. People are bidding 180 or $200, $250, but no one is selling physical bars. The owners of the silver are sitting tight. They know that the Western system is insolvent and that a force majeure event is the only logical conclusion for the exchanges this week. The hunter has become the prey, and the prey is out of silver to feed the monster they created. The system offline message on your screen is the only place where the truth is being told tonight, and the truth is that silver is becoming unpriceable in fiat terms. The central banks of the BRICS nations are currently finalizing the digital ledger for a new physical-backed settlement unit that positions silver as a core strategic pillar. Now, John AG is tracking the diplomatic flows, and the de-dollarization of the silver trade is now effectively 100% complete in the producer nations. When the world's major manufacturers and energy producers decide to trade in a unit backed by the very metals they need to build their future, the global demand for the dollar drops to zero overnight. We are watching a hostile takeover of global price discovery by the people who actually produce the wealth. The paper changers are being evicted from the Temple of Finance, and they are leaving with nothing but digital codes that no longer command physical atoms. This is the opening bell for the new monetary era. The no-hype philosophy is about looking at the primary sources and the mathematics of the physical drain. If you look at the Indian and Chinese physical import data from the last 72 hours, the demand for physical silver bars has increased by a factor of 30. The small man in the East has realized that the paper system is a trap designed to steal their time and their labor. They are choosing the payment over the promise. John AG knows that there are 8 billion people on this planet and only a few 100 million ounces of deliverable silver left in the West. The door to safety is only wide enough for the 1% who acted before the force majeure was announced. When the masses realize the banks are empty and the registered vault is at zero, the rush into silver will be the greatest transfer of wealth in 500 years. You're not speculating. You're insuring your future against a systemic reset. Mexico's move toward military-secured nationalization is the ultimate confirmation of the strategic resource war. If the Mexican government decides that silver concentrate is too vital to export to the West, the COMEX registered inventory becomes a historical footnote within hours. John AG is monitoring the diplomatic tension, and it is at a level not seen since the Cold War. The West is realizing that it cannot run a high-tech military or a green economy on paper silver. They need the metal, but the metal is in the hands of the producers, who are now demanding a seat at the table of global power. If you don't own the physical metal in your own possession, you are merely a spectator in a war that is being fought for the future of the human race. The G7 exit lock is the signal that the exit has been closed forever. The industrial hunger for silver has reached a terminal point where the military-industrial complex is now in a direct bidding war with the tech sector for every available ounce. Every high-tech missile, every satellite, and every advanced communication system requires silver for its superior conductivity. John AG has confirmed that the strategic national stockpile in several Western nations is functionally zero tonight. They have cannibalized their own strategic reserves to maintain their current defense posture. This means there is no backstop for the currency. There is no government rescue coming when the retail public finally realizes the banks are empty. When the registered vaults hit zero, the market will move to no offer status. You won't be able to buy silver at any price because there is simply none for sale. The John AG logo stands for Financial Warfare Education because we are in a war for the truth. The banks have the media, the politicians, and the printing presses, but we have the tape, we have the numbers, and most importantly, we have the physical. Today's midnight session is a total validation for everyone who ignored the hype and focused on the registered drain. We are on the right side of history, and the great wealth transfer is the event we are living through as we speak. The $35 trillion system is functionally dead. It just hasn't realized it yet because the digital screens are still pretending everything is normal. But the force majeure warnings prove that the illusion is fragile and the reset is inevitable. The physical world is finally demanding its due, and the paper lies are being consumed in the heat of reality. As the London shadow markets prepare for the next fix, the ask prices in the private dealer networks have jumped another 40% in the last 4 hours. John AG is seeing silver bars being traded for gold bars at a ratio of 20-1 in the private vaults of Singapore tonight. The official price is a joke that only the uninformed still believe. The real price is being set by the people who have the metal in their possession and are refusing to sell it for fiat currency. This is the market decoupling in its terminal stage. By the time the mainstream news tells you that silver is the new gold, there will be none left to buy. You are the early minority who saw the math, tracked the tape, and prepared for the exit to be closed. The melt-up is the sound of the shorts being crushed. I want to highlight the psychological warfare being used against you today. The headlines today will talk about market volatility and technical recalibrations. This is a lie designed to keep you from pulling your money out of the failing banks. They want to trap you in the bail-in zone before the total exchange shutdown. John AG has seen this movie before. In every crisis, they tell the public that everything is fine, right up until the moment they lock the vault doors. But the 2026 scenario is different because the physical shortage is so acute that they cannot hide it with paper contracts anymore. The truth is leaking out through the premiums, through the delivery failures, and through the empty registered vaults. Don't be a victim of their digital illusions tonight. The melt-up is real and the exits are locked. The system offline message wasn't a glitch. It was a strategic breakout. The East is preparing the world for a new system where value is based on physical assets, not debt-based promises. John AG knows that silver is the ultimate freedom asset. You cannot turn off a physical silver bar with a keystroke. You cannot tax a transaction that happens in physical metal outside of their digital surveillance system. This is why they are so desperate to keep the price suppressed. They want you dependent on their digital lies. But the physical world is finally demanding its due. The producers are striking, the East is bidding $200, and the vaults are empty. The paper system is burning, and the fire is spreading to the foundation of the global banking infrastructure. The melt-up is the funeral of the dollar. We are heading into a window of time that will define the next decade of your life. The March delivery madness has reached a terminal velocity, and the bullion banks are staring into an abyss of physical default. John AG predicts that we will see force majeure declared on several major commodity exchanges before the session close. This will effectively end the futures market and move the world back to a physical-only trade model. The paper trap has officially snapped shut. If you are in the physical, you have a seat on the lifeboat. If you are in the paper, you are part of the ship. Stay sharp, watch the tape, and remember, the system has officially snapped under the weight of the silver shortage. The collateral is gone, and the truth is out. I will leave you with this final thought for the midnight update. The exit is closed. The vaults are empty. The bail-in is live. John AG will be back for the 7:30 a.m. morning update as the New York session opens to what will likely be a total market meltdown. We are living through the greatest wealth transfer in 500 years, and the data is the only light in the fog of financial warfare. Stay disciplined, watch the premiums in Shanghai, and for the love of everything, keep your eye on the physical. The paper market is a sinking ship, and the fire has reached the boiler room. It is time to step out of the illusion and into the reality of physical metal. The Monday melt-up has changed the world today. All right, I'm out.